Hello viewers and students, welcome back to iteaches. Today's topic is function in Python. So we will going to learn that what is function in Python and how you can perform operations on Python. Let's proceed. So the video content we have today in this tutorial, function definition, then we're going to learn about calling a function, then we're going to see returning result. So function definition is going to tell you what is functions and other related issues with functions. Then in the second part we will going to learn about calling a function, how you're going to call a function, and in the third and the last part we're going to see that how function return a value to its caller. So let's proceed. So first of all we'll start with the definition. The function. A function is what? A block of code that performs a specific task. Simple. Block of code. That means a set of statements that is going to perform some specific task. Just like suppose you want to perform an addition. So for addition, what you require? Minimum we require suppose 2 values. We need to add those 2 values and finally display it on the monitor. So that means function is what? Function is going to perform an addition by taking suppose 2, 3, 4 any numbers of values and accordingly produces the summation result. Alright, now let's proceed to the type of function. Now what are the different types of function we have? In Python we have 2 types of function. One is called user defined function, another one is built-in function. Now let's see what is user defined function. The user or programmer can also create their own function which are called user-defined functions. Now user like you and me or the programmer can write down the code depend upon the need. So that code, as I said, may be related with arithmetic operations or any other thing. So depend upon your choice or your work, you can create your specific function. You can give any name to the function and then that function, whenever you call, it will perform some specific task. So as the name is given by the user, so that is it is known as user-defined function. But there are different type of functions also available in Python which are called built-in functions. So what are built-in functions? The functions that are already present in Python to perform various tasks. That means these functions are already present inside the Python. That means whenever you install Python in your machine, Python already provide you some previously set or already defined functions in its module. So you need to import those modules and simply use it in your code. That is very easy and handy. Now let's see that what are the advantages of using function. Now the first advantage is code reusability. From the name only you can understand that it is code reusability. You can reuse the code whenever you require it. That means you write down the code for once inside a function and whenever you need that particular function, you simply call it and function will perform the specific task every time for you. The next topic is about modularity. Modularity in code means suppose you have a very large program, you can divide those large programs into smaller portions. So when you divide it into smaller portions or sections, these sections are basically known as function or modules. So that's why your program will be divided into smaller parts that will make easy code maintenance. That means you can maintain the code very easily and also it helps you to debug or troubleshoot any problem in those particular functions. As well as the code is reusable, the length of the code, the overall length of the code or your program will definitely reduce. So these are the advantages we have with function. Now let's proceed what we have the next section. The next section will have function definition. That means how you can define a user-defined function. So this is what it looks like. Now as you can see over here, that is def represents the beginning of the function definition. After that you have the function name. You have to mention any function name that you want. And after that inside the parentheses, that is the brackets, you need to pass the parameters on which the function will perform some action. You will see I have written over here a doc string. Doc string, basically I have put it inside 3 single inverted commas. Now we will learn that what is doc string. The doc string gives information about a function, that is what the function will do. It is generally written inside triple double quotes or triple single quotes. Here I have given triple single quotes. So as from the statement only, it is very clear that what your function will perform, what type of action your function will going to perform, you can write over here. Remember, this is not going to execute it by the interpreter over here. Alright, so this is just for an information that what your function is going to do. Now again, come back to this particular first line, which is called the prototype of the function also. This is what the definition, that is def. This is the keyword you have to use whenever you have to define a function. Then you have to write down the name of the function, and then you have to write down the parameter inside the parenthesis. But remember, at the end of this particular first line, you have to use this colon. So when you mention this colon, this represents the body of the function will start after this. Alright, so now let's see an example based on this particular syntax. So again, you see this syntax clearly. First you have to write def, then we have to write down the function name, and then inside the parenthesis we can pass the parameter. This is optional, one parameter is optional, but still you should know that what is parameter. These are the values that you can send inside the function from the main portion of the Python program. Now let's see how it works. So this is the example based on this particular syntax. The example is very simple. I have used add over here. So def, again the same thing, def I have to write first. After that, the name of the function over here is add, and then inside this parameter I have given num1 and num2. These are the two variables which is going to receive the values outside the function. Alright, that is whenever I need to call this function, I need to pass two values. Those two values will be replaced in this num1 and num2, and these num1 and num2 is going to is used as the values over here. Addition will be performed, result will be stored inside total, and finally the result will be printed inside the function in this print statement. Alright, so this is the overall picture of the function definition. Now let's proceed further to see the calling of a function. So you have already seen this portion in the previous section, that is def, add, then num1, num2. Then I have given the doc string over here that is not going to execute. This is only for our information. Addition of two numbers, how these two numbers will get added. Now as I told you earlier that num1 and num2 are the parameters which will going to receive values from the main program. So these two values will get added, and finally total will be receiving the summation of these two numbers, and we will display the value of the total in this print statement. Now we will see how you can call a function. This is the function definition. Remember students, this is the function definition. Now we are going to see the calling portion. Now this is the main part of the this program in the Python. So I have taken two variables over here, a and b. A contain 10 and b contain 20. Now what I have done in the next line, I have written add. I have written add and I pass these two values, a and b. So a contain 10 and b contain 20 respectively, and these two values, these two variables a and b is now passed as a parameter to the add function. See over here we have add function, it requires two parameters, num1 and num2. So here we have to pass two values. So a is going to we will going to send a and b. So a will be received by num1 and b will be received by num2. So like this way you are going to call a function by simply calling the name of the function and passing the accurate number of parameters. Now over here I have used other variables. So Another here addition add I have called. So in this particular thing I have written 20, 30. That means I have passed the value directly. 20 and 30 are the value I have passed directly over here. Earlier I have called the with the help of the variables, but now I am directly passing the value 20 and 30. Similarly, this 20 and 30 is basically a integer value. In the third call, I have passed the float value, that is the decimal numbers 40.56 and 30.34. Now, a very interesting point you will see over here, that is this num1 and num2, the parameters, earlier they receiving 20 and 30, the integer value. But next, when we have done this call, I have passed a decimal value. Now, very interestingly, you will see that num1 and num2 now behave just like a float number or a decimal number. So, this is a very essential property. So, what we can conclude, let's see. This is, as I said, the function definition. Then we have this calling the add function. And here, as it is called code reusability, that means I am writing this code only once, but I am calling this particular function again and again with the different values, and this function will produce different result. So let's see what are the conclusion we can draw from here. So the important point to understand over here is the functions are written so that we can use it again and again whenever required. This is called code reusability. Understood what is code reusability? Alright, now let's move on to the next portion. Python supports dynamic typing. This is very important, dynamic typing. And where is this dynamic typing? See over here. That means the parameter num1 and num2 do not know which type of values they are going to receive until the values are passed to them during the function call. See, the add function here, num1, num2 don't know which value they are going to receive. It may be an integer type, it may be a float type, that is a decimal type. So that's why whenever we send an integer value, the integer value will be accepted in num1 and num2. When we call the function with the float value, that is the decimal values, it is going to behave and accept the decimal values also. That's why these particular variables are not bound to a specific type. It totally depends upon what kind of values, what type of values we are going to pass. That's why they are called dynamic typing. So Python support dynamic typing. And in this case, the data is determined only at runtime. Remember, the data is determined only at runtime, not during compile time. Because here at the runtime only, when the function will call, then only num1 and num2 come to know that how they have to behave, whether they are going to receive an integer or they are going to get a float or a decimal number. Understood what is dynamic typing? So now let's proceed further. Now the next topic and the last topic that we are going to have is returning values from a function. Alright, returning values from a function. So in the previous two section you have already seen how we have called a function and how the function will going to deal with the values. Now after the function performs some action, function may return the value to its caller also. Alright, over here if you can see, in earlier code I have used print statement over here, and the print statement is ultimately print the result directly in the function itself. But in some cases, if we want that function will return the value to its caller and then display the result in the main, then we can do this activity. Alright, now see the arrow over here. The first, what will happen? The result is going to receive the result of this addition. But before that, this add function will call this add. Alright, and with which value? With a and b. Here 10 and 20 again I have taken. 10 is the value present inside a, 20 is the value which is present inside b, and we call this particular function. So the value of a and b is going over here inside num, and num2 will receive it, perform the addition, and then store the result inside the total. And finally, this is the keyword that you can see, return. This return keyword is going to return the value which is present inside this particular variable total. So what is the statement? How you have to write down the return? This is the last statement. Remember, at the end of every function body, the return statement will be there. All right, it is not mandatory that every time you have to return, but if you want to return, then always remember return will be the last statement, because from here only function will throw the signal back to the caller. All right, so now again you see this picture, add AB. So here add is going to call this way by passing A and B inside this, and then it performs the action, and this return is ultimately going to return the total value. Now see the second step, total value. So this particular calling portion is now replaced with the value of the total. So as I pass here 10 and 20, this 10 and 20 get added over here, stored over here as 30 inside total. Then I have returned the value, that is total value, which is 30, to its caller this way, and replace this area. So now you just imagine you replace this particular part with the total value, which is 30. Now 30 is get assigned inside the return. So when 30 is stored inside the result, all right, now this result is now going to print it in this way. So in this manner also, this function is returning only one value. This is how you can pass, suppose multiple values or single values to a function, depend upon your requirement. You perform the action and then you return the value to its caller in this particular manner. All right, now here I am talking about only one value, but if in some cases you may require two values to return, or three values, or multiple values to return. So how you are going to return it? Let's see. Now I have taken here another function. Here I want to perform two operations together, that is addition and subtractions together. All right, so definitely this function is going to return two values, but first one will be sum and second will be, suppose, the subtraction. So again I have taken 10 and 20. I have called this add function again with this value. All right, so here this particular A and B, that is 10 and 20, is going to store over here in num1 and num2 respectively, and then this operation will perform over here, that is subtraction. I'll operate over here. For example, the largest number I have taken, suppose B is the largest number, so that's why I've arranged it in this manner. So num2 minus num1, this is this num2 minus num1, and the subtraction result will be produced over here, stored over here, and in the summation these two numbers will be added and the summation will be here. Now carefully observe over here what I have done. Initially return only returns one value, but in this case return is returning two values separated by commas. Okay, so this sum is over here, comma sub, that is the subtraction result. Now this is going to return two values. Now when it's going to return one value, we required one variable to store it, but when we have two values, now we need two values to store it respectively. All right, so when this sum and sub is written over here, this place, then sum will get stored inside plus and sub is going to store inside minus in the same order. So remember students, the sum is first here, second is sub is written. That's why we need to arrange it in the same manner. First will be the sum result and next one will be the sub result. So sum result I have stored in plus and the sub result is I have stored inside the minus. And finally, as simple, we can display the output using the print. So this is the way you can return multiple results. All right, so this function is returning multiple values and this function is returning only one value. Now one important thing to understand, if the function is not returning any values, then no need to use return keyword. This I already told you earlier in the previous section also. You have seen that if you don't need any function that it should not return a value to its caller, in that case you can stop it over there. No need to write down any return. Rather you can write down a print statement over there. It is totally up to you how you arrange it. But always make sure that whenever you want to need whenever you want to return a value in particularly, then in that case you have to use the return keywords along with the variable name that you are going to return. It may be one or it may be multiple. So this is all about the function, students. So I hope you enjoy this particular tutorial about the function. All right, and I hope that you enjoy it. Alright, thanks for watching iTeaches. If you like this tutorial, then please like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to press that bell icon. Now you can follow us on Facebook also as iTeaches. So thank you very much. See you again in the next video.